G'day everybody, Kia from Aussabers. I'm going to give you a close-up look at the electris today. So this is also for the benefit of customers of Darkwolf custom sabers who are also going to be selling the Aussabers electris worldwide. So a lot of you have been messaging me and asking when that's going to happen. Well, it's happening. So Johnny's asked me if I can just do up a quick video showing you guys how to get into the Saber. So for adjusting things like your settings on the board, if you're using a Xeno or Golden Harvest or Profi, how to charge it. And also one thing on here that's a little bit unusual is the switch height adjustment as well. So there is the capacity here to adjust the height of the switch relative to the control box clamp card here, which operates the switch. So first and foremost, just going to show you how to actually get into the thing. So getting into it's pretty straightforward. It's really just a matter of unscrewing the back. So the pommel and the fins here actually do come apart, but you can just take that whole section off. And then it's a matter of taking that clamp card off. That just slides out. And this is how you charge it as well. You can see there's a little charging port there, so that's accessible just by sliding that off. I like to unscrew the box slightly because I find that these screws are usually slightly too long and will be touching the chassis. So when you try to pull the chassis out, if you undo the screws from the back and it's still not moving, that's probably the reason why. The other thing you can do at this point is also undo that plunger in case it is engaging with the switch. You don't have to take it all the way out, just loosen it off a little bit. You just turn it over, undo the grub screw there, which is your height adjustment for the switch itself. Just comes out. And then the other screw here, which is holding the actual chassis. And then you should be able to just pull the whole thing down. Oh, not quite, it's still stuck in there, so that'll be one of these screws that's holding it. You can take the box off altogether if you want, but there's really no need. There we go. And then that slides out, so you can slide it out probably about yay far. You really don't want to go any further than when the battery is fully exposed. If you need to push the battery out, you can push that using the gap there, and then you can access the board there as well, so that's pretty easy to do. The reason I say you don't want to pull it any further is because there are wires connecting through here, up through the thin neck and into the emitter end for either your blade PCB or LED, depending on the version that you've got. And you don't want to pull it too far because otherwise you're going to take those wires further than they can go. So that's how you get into it, and then putting it back together is really just everything in reverse that we've already done here. So we're going to put these screws back in the back. You'll be able to see where they're lined up there by looking through the holes. And then you've got your height adjustment screw for your switch, and this is an important point. You don't want to push that in too far because otherwise the switch isn't going to actuate properly. So we're just going to screw it in until it's just inside that hole, and then we'll stop. And then we can tighten up this side here as well. So remembering that we undid those because these screws on either side of the switch are normally just slightly longer, and they will also be pushing up against the chassis there and creating another point of contact and preventing it from moving. So just important to know to do that. So we've tightened up the plunger here. I'm just going to stick this one back in. Now if I try to turn this on,
power on.
All right, I've gotten that switch height pretty right, but let's say for instance that I hadn't. So we'll undo this a little bit and then we try to press it. Nothing's going to work because there's obviously the plunger is moving, but it's not quite getting to the switch inside here because it's not up high enough. And it's really just a matter of doing, some half turns until you get that right. You don't need to go crazy. If you go too far, it'll create a problem as well. So there we go. And one other little trick you can do, this card is fairly secure. One other trick that you can do, if you find that the card wiggles around, and one of the really obvious signs that it's wiggling around is that it will rattle. So with the sound, because this is such a small saber, there's not really anywhere for the sound to go. There's not much space between the speaker and where this pommel thins right out. And the sound waves will bounce around in there, and they will also, hit this card, and it'll start vibrating and going a bit crazy. So that's when you usually know that it's a bit loose, and otherwise you can sort of tip it up and the card will fall out. There's a couple of ways to get around that. Blue tack. or hot glue or something, slightly adhesive that you can just kind of squeeze in on one side there and then just have this push up against it so it won't move. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it, which I like to do, is I undo this plunger just very, very slightly. I might use a more appropriate tool for this rather than using the clamp card. Surefire way of breaking my clamp card. So just undo it, maybe half a turn, and then just pop this in. No, that's probably too far. So what you're trying to do here is you're trying to get this plunger to sit up so that it's holding. So it's pushing the card upwards, up against these top ridges here of the control box. And there's a bit of an art to this, but if you can get that right, and what you'll need to do is you'll undo that slightly, and then you will need to tighten up this screw by that same corresponding amount of turn. So if you undo that a half turn in there, you're going to need to do that up a half turn to get that switch right. I've got it pretty well right now.
Volume low.
Yeah, that's exactly where it needs to be. So that card, you can't really see it on the camera, but it is pretty well hard up against these top lines here, so it can't really shift. And that's a really good way of dealing with a loose clamp card in a control box. I see guys coming up with all of these options. Yes, you can use blue tack. Yes, you can use hot glue, double-sided tape. But honestly, you don't need to do any of that stuff. Likewise, with the control box that we sell separately at Aussabers and at Aussabers, you can do the exact same thing because it's the same mechanism. So that is a really quick and good crash course, I suppose, on how to charge the electris. Just a matter of sliding that out the way so you can get to your charge port. How to disassemble the electris to get to the board, and of course how to adjust that switch height for your clamp card as well. So, but if you've got any questions, reach out to me at Aussabers or Johnny at Dark Wolf, and we'll be able to give you guys a hand. Thanks very much for your time. I'll see you later.